Get full episodes of The Damage Report as a podcast on iTunes and Android, and you can watch the live show every weekday on YouTube TV. Yesterday on the show, Congressman Ro Khanna talked about how he on the House side and Bernie Sanders and other senators, Mike Lee and Chris Murphy as well, are pushing to end our assistance to Saudi Arabia in their terrible war on Yemen. And within 24 hours, actually, there's been some pretty significant movement, a new vote. So it's a procedural vote in the Senate to effectively re-question and fundamentally change our relationship with Saudi Arabia in that conflict. It was 63-37, so in the modern day, that is as bipartisan as anything will ever be. And what's interesting is it's co-sponsored by Bernie Sanders and Chris Murphy on the Democratic side or independent side, caucusing with the Democrats, and Mike Lee, who is, that's a pretty conservative senator there.
Yeah.
But it would force the US to cease its support for the Saudi-led coalition in its fight against the Houthi rebels in Yemen. Within 30 days, the White House has said that they would veto it. And in advance of that vote, they had dispatched Pompeo and others to try to pressure people not to vote for it. And let's talk about what that assistance looks like. If you haven't been following this conflict, why are we involved in it? What are we doing? The US is currently helping the Saudi-led coalition by providing them with intelligence, selling them arms and ammunition, and until recently, arguably, fueling planes in the conflict that has already left tens of thousands dead, millions more suffering from starvation and disease, terrible cholera outbreaks. The starvation there is absolutely dreadful and likely to get worse. And now we have one step closer to actually rebuking the president on that.
Right, and you saw the vote was 63-37, which is, somewhat could be veto proof if they get there. But it doesn't seem like 63 Republicans at final passage are going to support it. But yesterday, they didn't even think this vote was going to go the way it did. John Thune beforehand said the votes aren't there, and he's part of the Republican leadership in the Senate, the senator from South Dakota. But it is encouraging, and I think Chris Murphy is getting short shrift here a little bit because of the headline of Mike Lee, a Republican, and Bernie Sanders. But Chris Murphy has been the most consistent drumbeat against what's happening in Yemen, and he has fought really hard to get his to get this bill to the floor and to woo Republicans and to also make it not seem that it was a drastic bill, but an important bill. And it was given a lot of fuel after what happened to Khashoggi.
Exactly. I want to return to that in just one second, but I want to just update you on a couple of the things that some of the sponsors have said since then. Bernie Sanders tweeted out, "Let's keep the pressure on and make it crystal clear to the world that the United States of America is not going to continue to be part of this horrible Saudi-led coalition in Yemen, which is causing so much death and misery." And Chris Murphy said, "I've been at this for 3 years and I am blown away by this by a big bipartisan margin. The Senate just voted for the first time to move forward with a debate on ending American involvement in the Yemen war." And then he thanked his other co-sponsors. So thankfully there have been people, both in the Senate, we're crediting them because they've been successful so far, but there have been those on the House side that have been pushing for this for some time. And yesterday on the show, Congressman Khanna said that he believes with the new incoming Democratic majority, they will be able to pass this finally. It's been lagging slightly in comparison to the Senate, of course. This seems very overdue. I believe that many aid organizations are saying that this is the worst humanitarian crisis in the world right now, and we are aiding it in a number of different ways. And if you listen to the president, we're doing it so that we can sell some more weapons. That is our motivation. I'm curious, you mentioned Khashoggi, the killing of him. We had that briefing about what the CIA and others think about it, and Gina Haspel was not there.
Right.
How do you think that was a misstep on the part of the White House?
Of course it was. I mean, and what they're doing is you have now created a right wing in America that doesn't believe what a community of people has always believed, whether it be that our intelligence has not been a partisan thing.
Yeah.
And this administration has made it partisan. And by not having Gina Haspel there yesterday, it was clearly a misstep, but it was clearly something that they were scared of. So they knew exactly what they were doing.
Yeah, I think, look, I guess in a perfect world, we would have had this measure pass, we would vote on the Senate, it would pass in the House, purely because of the horrible toll on the Yemeni people.
Yeah.
But if this apparently targeted killing of a critic of the Saudi regime, if that is what gets us past the hump, awesome, we should have that. Because I think Donald Trump's recent quotes over Thanksgiving break about, maybe he did it, maybe he didn't, but we need to sell weapons. I personally feel is one of the most horrendous, embarrassing things I've ever seen a president say.
And it's ironic that they talk about the smoking gun of all sort of symbols of what they're missing here is a smoking gun, when this is all about guns and weaponry anyway.
Exactly.
But there are times when you don't need a smoking gun in international relations. I mean, we're not talking about a court of law and a jury of your peers here. This is a jury of the world, and it's pretty clear what happened.
And I want to say briefly, so we're talking about how Gina Haspel should have been there to brief him. Look, Gina Haspel, I didn't want her to be the head of the CIA. I think she's terrible. It's not my stance that anything the CIA necessarily has to be true, but some people have taken the CIA either not being fully forthcoming in the past as you should never believe anything the CIA ever says again, which is of course absurd.
Right. But it's the position that needs to be there. It's not Gina Haspel. Whether you wanted Gina Haspel or Mickey Mouse, the person who heads this.
Mickey Mouse.
Well, you got her. But the person who's the head of intelligence of the United States is the one that should be going before Congress, to whoever it is and whenever it is.
Yeah, and by the way, people often give the example of the lead up to the Iraqi war and say that the intelligence agencies all lied to us. Okay, they did some stuff, but it was largely the politicians manipulating and selectively using intelligence. It was not primarily an intelligence issue, it was a manipulation of intelligence issue, which we're effectively in yet again.
And we don't know if they're lying to us if they're not coming to talk to us.
Exactly,
which is
we need to actually have that first. Thank you very much for watching this clip from the Damage Report. If you liked it, don't forget to subscribe to this channel and ring the bell on YouTube to get notifications of our new videos. And of course, you can catch the full Damage Report live every weekday at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific on TYT Network on YouTube TV.